As you chat with various women pastors and priests, I'm curious about like some of the challenges that they're having, and also like your recommendations for those of us who are in congregations and want to do a better job supporting the women leaders in the church.
Yeah. Well, the problem is twofold. One is that there are denominations, and even within even denominations, evangelical or otherwise, that ordain women. There is still very much can be a hostility to ordain women. And the other difficulty is just simply the finding congregations that are willing to hire women as a priest or a pastor. I think that folks who've been doing that longer are more open to it. So, for example, I think denominations like the Lutherans, Methodists, those folks have been doing it for so long, or even among evangelicals, for example, there are denominations like Wesleyan Methodists who've been ordaining women for since the time of the Civil War. But among denominations for which this is a fairly recent thing, there's still a lot of opposition, and then there's just always the problem of finding a position in a church. Most congregations still tend to want to hire a man. There may be congregations that say, well, we don't theologically have problems with it, but if there are two people being interviewed, often the man will be the preferred person that's going to be hired. So I do talk to women at seminary predominantly who often have a frustration with, well, if I get my degree, will I be able to find a position? But I am pleased to say that more and more of our students who go off graduate, get ordained, and are able to find positions. So I think it's a cultural change that's going on. The culture as a whole has seen a shift since the time that I was a young person, where it was rare for women to work outside of the home, to where now most families are two-income families. And I think that shift is gradually taking place in the church as well. Certainly women have positions of leadership in churches that they wouldn't have had 20, 30 years ago, even if they're not ordained. So, for example, boards of vestries in Anglican churches or presbyteries in Presbyterian churches, what are called boards of deacons in congregational churches. Deacon has a different structure in those churches than it does in Anglican or Episcopal churches. Would tend to have more women in positions of leadership. Women also are participating more and more in worship activities and teaching and those kinds of things within churches. I think the one thing that is where there's still, and again, I can't speak for complementarian churches, but I think even among churches where there are not often women pastors, there are much more willingness to allow women to do things like teach Bible studies, to participate in worship in various ways. And again, I've not been in a low church evangelical setting since I was a very young man, so I'm not sure what always goes on in those settings, but I do know among more historically mainline denominations, Presbyterians, Methodists, Anglicans, Lutherans, women tend to have much more freedom than they do in the traditionally low church evangelical, some kinds of charismatics, very, very conservative Presbyterians.
Yeah, I also think about it's hard when young girls like going to a church or their exposure is that they don't see women in those leadership roles, so they don't think that's even like a possibility for them.
Right. Yeah, I think that's true.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out this video clip from the Delgado Podcast. To get more videos like this, simply subscribe here on YouTube. You can also download the full episode of each show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or your favorite podcast player. Take care.